Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to another video. This is Fish Room Vlog number 47, or as I'm actually preferring to call it, the all-baby version, because I'm getting an awful lot of fry, and I thought I would share that with you. This little fellow here is a baby gardener eye, and I was actually really thrilled to see him. And there's about 4 in here, I think. I am going to do something slightly different for raising these up. What I've been doing so far is I've just left a bunch of Java moss in the tank, and I've been feeding the tank rather heavily with scuds, and also as soon as I spotted these guys, microworms, and of course the regular food for the adults. So they're doing really well, but I would like to have a few more babies. Like, I want to get a good number of these growing up. So I've already done this at this point. You can see the Java moss here looks a little bit different than it did before. And what I did is or my plan I should say is, I am going to take this Java moss out and replace it with fresh Java moss that doesn't have any eggs in it. And I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing for the rainbows. I'm going to rotate them every few weeks. And that should give me, hopefully, a good supply of babies. So this is the before, and you're going to see the Java moss here does look different. It's growing out quite nicely. So I'm going to pull this out and hopefully carefully not take any fry with it. And I am going to put that in, they're just Rubbermaid bins. They're white ones. You've seen me use them before. And I'm going to put this tank water in there. And I'm just going to keep an eye on it, and hopefully we'll get some fry, and I will obviously feed them. You can see the little baby there just trying to get back into the Java moss. The only thing about doing it this way that irritates me a little bit and concerns me is when you disturb the fry and they're out of their normal hiding holes, some of them might get eaten. So that is something that you have to be really careful with doing it this way. I was initially intending on trying to keep this as natural as possible, and because I had 4 fry, it probably would have been fine. If I don't end up with a bunch of eggs in these 2 chunks of Java moss I'm taking out, I will probably just go back to doing it the natural way, or put in some spawning mops. That way, like I said, I don't want to end up having too much predation. So I haven't really noticed the adults going after the fry at all, and sometimes in killifish you'll get that where they just don't seem to be interested in their own offspring as far as eating them goes. So that's hopefully will remain the case. So all that's really left to do now is just put the new Java moss in. But I had the bright idea that, well, I could probably catch a couple of them out, but I ended up with my head in most of that shot, and in the end, they're quick little buggers. I didn't get any at all. I tried. Like I said, there's about 4 of them in there, and I just gave up. And I just replaced the Java moss in there. And the initial clips that you saw were of those fish. So, like I said, I don't think I lost any to the adults, or hopefully to being stuck in the Java moss. And I'm going to show you a clip here. The next one up, obviously, is going to be of that tub. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be 1 fry in there that you're going to see, and it's a new hatchling, because if you remember the size of the one that you saw in the clip, it is much, much smaller. They're probably in the neighborhood of guppy size when they're born, maybe slightly bigger, but nowhere near the size of the fish you saw there. And because I'm, like I said, feeding them the way I do, you'll notice that that fry that was in this tank here had a good belly on it. And that's, well, obviously the most important thing, that they're growing up nice and healthy like that. So there you go. That's very easy to do, especially if you're not going to try catching a fry in the interim between, swapping out the mosses. But again, like I said, it's one of these things. I heard from someone that they like to do it the natural way, and they're getting a lot of success, and I would like to do that as well. So you can see the fry there, and that's how big it is when it's roughly fresh born. And yeah, that's about guppy size. And both this shot and the original shot were unmagnified, so that gives you a good idea how much it grows in about 2 or 3 weeks, I guess. It's we'll see when this guy grows up, and we'll do a size comparison then. So this is just the Rubbermaid bin, and I really do like using these for lots of different things. And for the moment, it's going to be hopefully a garden eye nursery. Now I want to move on to the rainbows. These are the Bosmani Rainbows. And I have good news and bad news about this, unfortunately. The good news is they hatched out really nicely. I was growing quite a few of them, and I was having a hard time figuring out what was in a bin, whether it was a new fry or old fry, or if I was getting any more. So I started catching them out. They're much easier to catch than the garden rye, and I was putting them in this small container. And then I wanted to check to see how well they were eating. So I started putting in vinegar eels, and also, as you can see by the color, infusoria from my infusoria tank. And they were doing really quite well. I was monitoring their bellies, and I was doing 50% water change on this, probably about 2 or 3 times a day with the adult aquarium, like the original water from the aquarium. And I wanted to check to see them getting bellies. And as you can see, they're starting to get them here. And in the next shot, you'll see that it's even more so. So I was actually really quite happy about this. They're doing well. They're feeding. They're getting. There's a really good shot of a chubby one there. And so I was getting in the process of transferring these guys into the adult tank with that fry nursery. But I had to move all the plants to make room for it. So I ended up getting busy, as I tend to do sometimes. I had some work I had to do for a client, and I missed a couple of water changes. It was only in one day, but you can see just here on the surface there's a little bit of surface tension. This should have been my clue, but again, it was like really busy, and I figured I'd just go and I'll take care of it when I got back. But unfortunately, that's all it takes when something is this small. The water ended up getting a little anoxic because of all the algae in there and everything else, and the whole thing just crashed. I lost all the fry. Very annoying. Unfortunately, it's just my mistake. I put a clip of this in here simply because I tried this out as a spot for fish to lay eggs in, but so far I've tried 2 different fish and none of them like it, so I think I'll stop using that. On a better note, these are more angelfish eggs, and this batch they decided to lay on the silicone in the back of the tank. That's why you're having such a blurry image here, is because I had to magnify it quite a bit for you to see it. I have removed the plecostomus from this tank. They're now in the Java Moss bog filter tank, and I am going to hopefully get them to get these to free swimming. And if they do, I am going to raise this as my second batch. This is like their 7th batch of fry, so it's time that I started raising more of them, because the other ones are doing so well. So that is pretty much the end of the video, except one little thing here. If you remember the jumper that got in my scud tank and I just can never find it, well, he's finally decided to be less shy, and he comes up near the front, and you can see how fat he is. He's doing actually really quite well. But he is like one of the fry in the other tank that just doesn't have any pelvic fins. So obviously he will not be going into any kind of breeding group, but he's quite happy and healthy, besides not having the pelvic fins. And anyway, he'll be fine in my tanks. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.